The holidays are supposed to be a time for peace and goodwill. But for some people, it's peak season for entitlement, pettiness, and lodging complaints so absurd they defy all logic. These are the stories of individuals who weaponize festive cheer and turn celebrations into personal battlegrounds of baffling demands. We've collected 55 tales that prove no occasion is too sacred to be ruined by a truly determined complainer. Share your favorite holiday in the comments, and let's begin. 1. On February 15th, a man called a florist to complain about the Valentine's Day roses he'd sent his girlfriend. While the flowers arrived fresh and on time, he was furious because his girlfriend never posted a picture of them on Instagram. He argued that the main purpose of a modern bouquet is public social media validation. In his mind, her failure to post was direct proof the florist hadn't created a bouquet with enough visual impact to be Instagram-worthy. He demanded a partial refund, not for the flowers themselves, but for the lost social capital and public affirmation he felt he'd been denied. 2. On Black Friday, a woman in a New Jersey electronics store called 911 from the checkout line to report a hostage situation. When the dispatcher asked if there was a threat, she clarified that there were no weapons, but the line was over an hour long and she felt trapped. She insisted that the store's failure to open more registers was a form of unlawful imprisonment and demanded that police be sent to liberate her and the other shoppers from the tyranny of having to wait for their discounted television. 3. On Christmas morning, a father in Pennsylvania spent 45 minutes on hold with a toy manufacturer's emergency hotline to lodge a furious complaint about his son's new Galactic Star Cruiser playset. His issue? The toy came in 250 separate pieces and required assembly. He argued the picture on the box showed a fully built starship, which he called blatant deception. He insisted the warning, "Assembly required," was criminally understated and should be changed to "Congratulations, your holiday is now ruined." He demanded they send a technician to his home immediately to build it for him. 4. On a Caribbean Christmas cruise, a passenger filed a 2-page written complaint against the ship's staff. His grievance wasn't about the food, the service, or the cabin. It was about the ship's designated group of carolers. He claimed their rendition of Silent Night was pitchy, and that the tenor was noticeably flat. He demanded a partial refund for his cruise, citing auditory distress that ruined the festive atmosphere he had paid for. Apparently, the gentle rocking of the ocean wasn't enough to soothe his perfectly tuned ears. 5. After a large family Thanksgiving dinner, the host received a formal invoice in the mail from her cousin. The bill was for $200, itemized as premium conversational services. The cousin argued that his witty anecdotes, engaging political commentary, and humorous stories were the sole reason the dinner wasn't unbearably dull. He felt he deserved financial compensation for his emotional labor in single-handedly entertaining the family for 4 hours. What's the most outrageous thing you've ever seen a guest do? 6. A British tourist visiting New York City in December filed a formal complaint with his travel agency because the city was too Christmassy. He claimed the non-stop carols, excessive decorations in Times Square, and the sheer number of people wearing Santa hats created an overwhelming and inauthentic American experience. He was apparently expecting the gritty, crime-ridden New York from 1970s movies, and instead got a real-life holiday special, which he felt was false advertising. He specifically cited the Rockefeller Center tree as a bit much. 7. After the holidays, a man in Las Vegas threatened to sue an all-you-can-eat buffet. His claim: their delicious Christmas spread was directly responsible for the 7 pounds he gained between Christmas Eve and New Year's Day. He argued that the restaurant's irresistibly tasty prime rib and deceptively light cheesecake were a form of entrapment. His lawyer sent a letter stating the establishment failed to provide adequate warnings about the potential for caloric overload and post-holiday regret, thus violating his right to make responsible dietary choices. 8. A homeowners association in a pristine Florida suburb received an urgent complaint on Christmas night. The issue wasn't a loud party or an unauthorized vehicle. It was a neighbor's Christmas lights. The complainant alleged that the lights on the house across the street were blinking in an aggressive and non-sequential pattern, which was causing him visual anxiety. He included a diagram of the offending light display and demanded the HOA issue an immediate citation for what he termed rhythmic nuisance. It was a declaration of blinking war. 9. After a children's Halloween costume contest at a local mall, an enraged mother demanded to speak to the judges. Her son, dressed in an elaborate, store-bought Iron Man costume, had lost first place to a little girl who had creatively made her own robot costume out of cardboard boxes and tinfoil. The mother argued the contest was biased against parents who invest in high-quality costumes, and that the judges were rewarding poverty and craftiness over cinematic accuracy. She demanded they rerun the contest with fairer judging criteria. 10. On April Fool's Day, an employee at a tech company called the HR hotline to report his manager for creating a hostile work environment. The manager's prank? He had placed a small piece of tape over the optical sensor on the employee's computer mouse. The employee claimed the 2 minutes he spent trying to figure out why his mouse wasn't working caused him significant mental anguish and loss of productivity. He demanded that the manager be sent to a mandatory sensitivity training seminar for this psychologically damaging practical joke. 11. A teenager in Salem, Massachusetts demanded a full refund from a local haunted house on Halloween night. Her complaint wasn't that it was boring or the effects were cheap. Quite the opposite. She claimed the experience was too scary and had caused her undue emotional distress. She argued that when a zombie actor jumped out from a dark corner, it was an aggressive and unsanctioned act that exceeded the advertised level of fright. The manager had to explain that the entire point of a haunted house is, in fact, to be haunted and scary. 12. On January 3rd, a man in Florida stormed into a fitness center demanding a full refund for the annual membership he bought as a New Year's resolution. His complaint? The first workout was unreasonably difficult. He insisted the gym had a duty to ease him into exercise, but instead, the strenuous session had completely shattered his motivation. He accused the gym of ruining his entire resolution by making him try so hard and claimed that this discouraging experience entitled him to his money back, as they had effectively sabotaged his goal to get fit. 13. On Valentine's Day, a man attempted to get a refund for a prix-fixe dinner at an upscale French restaurant. His reason? The romantic atmosphere was ruined when a couple at a nearby table got engaged. He claimed their very public and joyful proposal drew all the attention in the room and made his own, less spectacular, Valentine's gesture feel inadequate and cheap. He argued the restaurant should have a no proposals policy to ensure an equitable distribution of romance for all patrons. 14. A woman in Chicago called the non-emergency police line on St. Patrick's Day to report an Irish pub for being irresponsibly crowded and loud. She had gone there expecting a quiet pint of Guinness, but was shocked to find the place packed with revelers, singing, dancing, and celebrating the holiday. When the dispatcher reminded her it was St. Patrick's Day, she retorted that it was no excuse for poor management, and that the bar should have anticipated her desire for a tranquil experience. What's the most ridiculous reason you've seen someone get mad in a crowded place? 15. The day after Easter, a customer service line for a major chocolate company received a 20-minute-long tirade from a very angry father. He accused the company of consumer fraud because the giant 1-foot-tall chocolate bunny he bought for his daughter was hollow. He insisted the packaging was misleading and that he had been tricked into buying decorated air. He calculated the cost per ounce of the chocolate he actually received and demanded they send him the difference in solid chocolate bars. 16. Police in a quiet suburb of Atlanta received multiple calls on the 4th of July about a neighborhood fireworks display. The complaint wasn't about the noise or the danger. A resident was furious because his neighbor was setting off fireworks that were, according to the packaging, made in China. He argued that celebrating America's independence with foreign-made pyrotechnics was deeply unpatriotic and constituted a betrayal of the nation's core values. He wanted the officers to confiscate the fireworks on grounds of treason. 17. A bakery customer demanded a full refund on her daughter's Frozen-themed birthday cake because the frosting was the wrong shade of blue. She had provided the baker with a specific Pantone swatch for cerulean blue. She insisted the cake she received was clearly cornflower blue, an error she claimed ruined the party's entire visual harmony. She wanted her money back for what she called artistic negligence. 18. On October 28th, a man in a gated community called 911 to report a gruesome discovery on his neighbor's front lawn: a body. When officers arrived, they found a hyper-realistic Halloween display featuring a mannequin zombie crawling from the grave. Even after the situation was clarified, the man continued to complain, insisting the decoration was psychologically damaging to the neighborhood's property values, and demanded his neighbor take down the tasteless spectacle before it scared away potential homebuyers. 19. A mother in a suburban Ohio mall flew into a rage and demanded a full refund for her photos with Santa package. Her reason was devastatingly simple. She could clearly see the seam on Santa's fake beard. She argued that this blatant falsehood had shattered her 6-year-old's belief system, and that the mall was responsible for the emotional trauma. She wanted her $40 back, plus compensation for the years of therapy her son would now inevitably need. Seriously, what did she expect? A direct flight from the North Pole? 20. A spectator at the annual Rose Parade in Pasadena, California, filed a complaint with the event organizers because the floral floats were a public health hazard. The woman claimed that the sheer volume of pollen and fragrances coming from the millions of live flowers used in the parade floats triggered her seasonal allergies. She demanded that for future parades, all floats must be constructed using only hypoallergenic, silk, or plastic flowers to ensure an inclusive and sneeze-free viewing experience for everyone. 21. Every Thanksgiving, police dispatchers get a flurry of calls that have nothing to do with crime. One of the most common. People dialing 911 because their turkey is either still frozen or, more often, too big to fit in their oven. In Texas, one woman called the emergency line in a complete panic, demanding an officer be sent to her house to deal with the situation because her 24-pound bird was an inch too wide for her appliance. The dispatcher had to calmly explain that turkey dimensions were not, in fact, a matter for law enforcement. 22. A father in Illinois wrote a 1-star review for his entire neighborhood on a community app after Halloween. His complaint: the neighbors were giving out the good stuff, full-sized candy bars and expensive chocolates. He claimed this act of generosity had set an unsustainable precedent and made the small bag of generic lollipops he had bought for trick-or-treaters look cheap. He accused his neighbors of engaging in candy-based one-upmanship and devaluing his own contribution to the holiday. 23. A man in Texas tried to return a top-of-the-line gas grill to a home improvement store the day after Father's Day. The grill was a gift from his wife and kids, but he claimed it was an unwanted domestic obligation. He told the manager that by giving him a grill, his family was subtly coercing him into hosting barbecues. He didn't want the gift, the pressure, or the assumed responsibility of cooking for everyone. He just wanted a store credit he could use for a new recliner. What's the worst reaction you've ever seen to a genuinely nice gift? 24. An office worker in Chicago filed a formal complaint with Human Resources after the annual Secret Santa gift exchange. Her grievance was against the colleague who drew her name and gave her a $20 gift card to Starbucks. She claimed this was a cold, impersonal, and thoughtless gift that showed a complete lack of effort. She argued that the spirit of Secret Santa required a personally selected wrapped gift, and that a gift card was a breach of unspoken holiday protocol. She demanded that HR force the colleague to try again. 25. On Mother's Day, A woman in Virginia left a scathing one-star Yelp review for her own children. After they prepared a homemade brunch for her, she took to the internet to complain that the Eggs Benedict was amateurish. The hollandaise sauce had split, and the mimosas used cheap Prosecco. She publicly shamed their efforts, concluding her review with, "While the thought was there, the execution was severely lacking. Would not recommend for a special occasion." She literally reviewed her own family. 26. A woman attempted to return a high-tech smart scale her husband had given her for Christmas. When the store clerk asked for the reason, she explained it was an unsolicited spousal commentary. She insisted that receiving a weight-tracking device on December 25th, after weeks of holiday feasting, was not a thoughtful gift but a passive-aggressive hint that he had been auditing her cookie intake. She declared the gift emotionally defective and a thinly veiled insult, demanding a refund so she could buy something that didn't silently judge her every morning. 27. After leaving a large Thanksgiving gathering, a guest sent a passive-aggressive text to the host. Her complaint was about the leftovers. She felt that as a guest who had graced the event with her presence, she was entitled to a significant take-home portion of turkey, stuffing, and pie. She accused the host of hoarding the leftovers and claimed that being sent home with only a small plate was a breach of holiday etiquette. Is there an unwritten rule about who is entitled to leftovers? 28. An HOA received a formal complaint about a neighbor's front yard nativity scene. The issue wasn't religious, it was zoological inaccuracy. The complainant was furious that one of the plastic sheep was noticeably larger than the donkey, which he claimed created a visually disturbing and unrealistic pastoral tableau. He was essentially demanding scale model accuracy for his neighbor's plastic lawn animals. 29. A man in Portland, Oregon, called the city's Parks and Recreation Department to complain about Arbor Day. He had picked up one of the free tree saplings the city was giving away, but was furious to discover it was a maple. He had apparently wanted an oak tree. He spent 10 minutes on the phone arguing that the city was practicing arboricultural mismanagement, and that offering only one type of tree was discriminatory to people with specific landscape aesthetics. He demanded they deliver an oak sapling to his home. 30. A tourist visiting Punxsutawney for Groundhog Day was so incensed by the animal's prediction of 6 more weeks of winter that he demanded a refund from the town's tourism office. He claimed he had booked a spring break vacation to Florida based on the assumption of an early spring. He argued that Punxsutawney Phil's inaccurate and pessimistic forecast had now cast a pall over his upcoming trip, and that the event organizers were financially liable for his pre-vacation anxiety. 31. A father in a wealthy Connecticut suburb called the non-emergency police line on Halloween night to report a neighbor for holiday fraud. The neighbor's crime: giving out healthy snacks like raisins, granola bars, and toothbrushes to trick-or-treaters. The man argued that his children had been lured to the door under the false pretense of receiving candy, and this act of nutritional responsibility constituted a bait-and-switch that ruined the spirit of the evening. He wanted the police to force the neighbor to distribute proper high-fructose corn syrup-based treats. 32. The day after Christmas, a man tried to return a 7-foot Fraser fir to a tree farm. The tree wasn't dead or shedding excessively. His official complaint was that it smelled too much like a real tree. He told the bewildered staff that the overpowering natural pine scent was giving him a headache and that he was expecting a more subtle, air freshener-like aroma. He was furious when they explained that once a tree is used and decorated, it cannot be returned, especially not for being exactly what it is. 33. A tourist attending the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in New York filed a formal complaint with the event organizers. His issue was with the iconic giant balloons. He claimed that the massive Snoopy and SpongeBob characters were flying too low, which obstructed his view of the historic architecture along Central Park West. He called them inconsiderate urban obstructions and suggested that in the future, the balloon should be tethered at a much higher altitude so that people could appreciate both the parade and the buildings behind it. Have you ever been genuinely disappointed by a huge live event? 34. At 12:05 a.m. on January 1st, police in a Florida retirement community received a noise complaint from a resident about his neighbors. The man was furious that the people next door were cheering, blowing noisemakers, and singing "Auld Lang Syne" in their backyard. When the dispatcher calmly explained that it was New Year's Eve, and his neighbors were likely celebrating the arrival of the new year, the man retorted, "I'm aware of the date. Their celebrating is making my year start off terribly, and I want it to stop." Hiasori 35, a man sent an angry email to the customer service department of a luxury chocolatier after Valentine's Day. His complaint was that the 24-piece assorted box of chocolates he bought for his wife did not include a map or legend identifying each piece. He explained that he accidentally bit into a coconut cream when he was anticipating a caramel, an experience he described as a jarring culinary betrayal. He demanded a full refund for the emotional distress and romantic discord caused by this lack of chocolate-based navigation. 36. An adult participant in a community Easter egg hunt stormed over to the event coordinator to demand his $5 entry fee back. He wasn't upset about the prizes or the number of eggs. He was furious because the eggs were hidden too effectively. He claimed he had spent nearly 30 minutes searching the park and only found 2 eggs, an outcome he found humiliating. He argued that the hunt was supposed to be a casual, festive activity, not an advanced reconnaissance mission, and that the difficulty level was unacceptably high. 37. A tourist from Ohio attending Mardi Gras in New Orleans filed a complaint with his hotel's concierge. He was deeply offended that people on the parade floats kept throwing beads at him. He described the tradition as unsolicited projectile jewelry and claimed he felt targeted and decorated against his will. He wanted to know if he could press charges against a specific float for assault with festive accessories because a string of purple beads had messed up his hair. 38. The city council of a small town in Tennessee received a multi-page, formally written complaint after their annual 4th of July fireworks show. The resident wasn't angry about the noise, traffic, or safety. He was incensed by the soundtrack. He argued that syncing the pyrotechnics to modern pop and rock music was a betrayal of the nation's history. He insisted that a patriotic event of this magnitude should only feature the music of John Philip Sousa and other classical composers, calling the use of a Katy Perry song an act of cultural vandalism. 39. On St. Patrick's Day, a man in a Boston pub flagged down his server to complain about the green beer. His issue wasn't the taste of the beer itself, but the color. He insisted he could taste the green. He described the flavor as being reminiscent of lawn clippings and artificial chemicals, and that the food coloring was overpowering the subtle notes of the lager. The staff tried to explain it was just a few drops of tasteless dye, but he was convinced his palate was so refined that he was able to perceive the very flavor of the color green. 40. After her 40th birthday, a woman filed a 1-star review for a high-end spa, where her friends had bought her a gift certificate for a massage. Her complaint was that the massage was too relaxing. She claimed the experience was so tranquil that it made her lose all motivation for the rest of the day. She argued that she had plans later that evening, and the spa's excessive relaxation techniques rendered her unfit to attend, thus ruining her birthday night. She wanted compensation for her forced state of lethargy. 41. During a Cinco de Mayo celebration, a couple at a popular Mexican restaurant complained to the manager about the live mariachi band. They said the music was too loud and authentic. The woman stated that she expected something more like festive background noise, not a full-blown cultural performance. Her partner added that the trumpets were startling, and the band's roving nature was intrusive to their conversation. They suggested the restaurant should offer a mariachi-free section for diners who preferred a more Americanized experience. 42. During a tense moment in a Thanksgiving football game, a guest at a family gathering confronted the host with a serious complaint. The guest, a man in his 50s, was upset that the host had chosen to watch the Detroit Lions game, which he deemed a historically uninspired and low-stakes matchup. He argued that as the host, it was his duty to curate a more compelling athletic narrative for his guests. He then demanded the channel be changed to a different, more exciting game, completely oblivious to the fact it was the host's favorite team. 43. A man tried to invoke a store's satisfaction guarantee policy on a mattress he bought during a Veterans Day sale. His dissatisfaction wasn't with the mattress itself, but with the holiday sales theme. He told the manager that using a day meant to honor veterans to sell commercial goods was tacky and disrespectful. The manager agreed that it was a fair point and asked if he just wanted to return the mattress. The man said no. He wanted to keep the mattress but demanded an additional discount as compensation for the store's moral failing. 44. A radio station in Minneapolis received dozens of angry calls and emails on November 1st, the day they switched to their 24/7 Christmas music format. One listener, however, took it a step further. She claimed the station's premature holiday cheer was a form of auditory assault that was causing her seasonal anxiety. She threatened legal action if they didn't switch back to their regular programming, arguing that she was now suffering from premature festive fatigue, and they were responsible for ruining her actual holiday spirit 2 months in advance. 45. A guest at a historic inn in Vermont called the front desk in the middle of the night, whispering that there was an intruder in his room. The night manager rushed to the suite, only to find the guest pointing a shaking finger at an elf on the shelf perched on the mantelpiece as part of the room's holiday decor. The man, who was in his 40s, insisted the elf's unblinking, judgmental stare was a violation of his privacy and that he was certain it was gathering information. Is there any holiday decoration more perfectly designed to fuel paranoia? 46. A customer at a big box store during a Labor Day weekend sale flagged down a manager to complain about the checkout process. After paying for a large patio furniture set, he was furious to learn he was expected to take it to his car himself. He argued that the store holding a Labor Day sale was ironic and hypocritical if they were going to make him, the customer, perform the labor of moving his own purchase. He insisted that the spirit of the holiday entitled him to free, immediate, and complimentary loading assistance. 47. A woman complained to the City of Las Vegas Events Committee about her experience at their New Year's Eve fireworks show on the Strip. Her issue was with the confetti that was shot over the crowd at midnight. She claimed the multicolored paper bits were aesthetically displeasing and had created chromatic chaos in her celebratory selfies. She attached several photos to her email, pointing out how the red and green confetti clashed horribly with her gold sequin dress. Honestly, have you ever deleted a good photo for a reason that petty? 48. A tourist visiting Washington, D.C. on President's Day was so annoyed by the crowds at the Lincoln Memorial that he sought out a National Park Service ranger to complain. He argued that on a day specifically meant to honor presidents, the memorial should be more accessible to those who truly wanted to appreciate it. His brilliant solution? The Park Service should implement a reservation system and a strict time limit on holidays, ensuring that he could get a clean photo of the statue without all these other people in the way. 49. An airline passenger flying on December 23rd filed a formal complaint against the flight crew for playing Christmas music during the boarding process. Specifically, he took issue with the song Jingle Bells. In his report, he wrote that the relentless cheerfulness of the song was inappropriate for the stressful environment of holiday travel, and that it gave him a headache. He suggested that airlines should only play tonally neutral, ambient soundscapes to avoid triggering passengers who are not in the mood for festive music. 50. Imagine checking into a beachfront hotel in Hawaii for the holidays. You open the curtains to a stunning view of turquoise water and palm trees swaying in the breeze. For one guest, this was a complete disaster. He complained to management that his ocean view room lacked a festive holiday feeling. He suggested the hotel should have somehow decorated the actual ocean, or at least projected images of snow-capped mountains onto the horizon to make it feel more like Christmas. Because nothing says tropical paradise like a hologram of a blizzard. 51. On the week of Thanksgiving, the White House comment line was flooded with calls about the annual turkey pardon. One man from Idaho, however, wasn't calling to praise the tradition. He was calling to file a formal complaint against it. He argued that pardoning a turkey was a gross miscarriage of justice that undermines the culinary authority of the holiday. He insisted that the act sent a dangerous message of clemency to other turkeys and demanded that the president cease the practice immediately to ensure all Thanksgiving turkeys face their delicious destiny without prejudice. 52. A woman in a family group chat unleashed a furious tirade the week after Christmas. She had bought her nephew a brand new expensive gaming console. In return, she received a text message that simply read, "Thanks for the PS5." This, she declared, was an insult of epic proportions. She complained that a gift of that value required, at a minimum, a phone call, but ideally, a handwritten thank you note sent via postal mail. She ended her rant by stating that if he couldn't show proper formalized gratitude, he should mail the console back to her. 53. A homeowners association in a quiet suburban neighborhood received an email complaint on December 23rd. The issue? The neighborhood's volunteer caroling group had skipped the complainant's house. The man wrote that he watched from his window as the carolers sang for his neighbors on both sides, but then deliberately and maliciously crossed the street, bypassing his home entirely. He accused them of festive discrimination and demanded the HOA compel the carolers to return to his lawn for a private makeup performance of no less than 3 classic carols. What is the most petty, passive-aggressive thing you've ever seen a neighbor do? 54. At a massive public New Year's Eve party in Chicago, a woman flagged down an event security guard just moments after midnight. She was visibly distraught and wanted to file a complaint against the event organizers. Her reason? No one had kissed her when the clock struck 12. She argued that the event had failed to create an inclusive atmosphere and that the organizers had a social responsibility to ensure all single attendees had a positive and affirming midnight experience. She was essentially complaining about a lack of a designated non-stranger kissing partner. 55. On December 27th, a man returned his dead, crispy Christmas tree to a home improvement store, demanding a full refund. He claimed it was a defective organic product. The defect? The tree had shed needles on his floor for 3 weeks. He argued this natural process was a product failure and presented the manager with an invoice for the hours he'd spent vacuuming, demanding compensation for his labor on top of the refund. And that's 55 reminders that for every person filled with holiday spirit, there's another one ready to complain that the spirit isn't the right brand. Before concluding, I would like to ask you one question. Which of these complaints deserves the award for the most ridiculous? If these tales of entitlement entertained you, do us a favor and hit the like button. And subscribe so you never miss another breakdown of baffling behavior.